to me. How's it hanging? How's it happen? You guys know this is Kevin from the Chord Progression Podcast. The podcast Rolling Stone Magazine describes as the one that initiates profound discussions with rock and metal artists, allowing fans to cover the career workflow of other famous musicians and understand the factors that make the band succeed or fall from fame. We are all sponsored by Dark Fusion Systems, the best your custom computing needs. Get $100 off your time with CVPod at darkfusionsystems.com. Links to the description of the podcast below. Check out the lists on millionpodcast.com. They rank many different podcasts from all across different spectrums, different categories. We're on 2 of them. Top metal podcasts in the world and top metalcore podcasts in the world. Do you want to know where we came in for the metal podcasts? We're at number 10. We're in the top 10 of metal podcasts in the world. How insane is that? But I want that number 1 spot. And for metalcore, we are number 2. But I want to be number 1. Not number 2, number 1. So let's make that happen. We're going to go to a feature presentation today. We have Vic from the band Telling Secrets on the podcast today. This modern rock band, this nomadic modern rock band, they released a brand new song called Do You Think I'll Make It back in the end of December. We talk about the December release window between Christmas, New Year's, when that all happens, and are more artists starting to play within that window. We also talk about what we're seeing from younger artists in terms of the smaller venues and how bands, fans, and venues can come together to create a space where not only will they be making the best shows that are out there, but create a space that younger artists can thrive, fans can enjoy, and smaller venues can prevent from being closed. And actually see more small venues pop up. Also, we figure out who Telling Secrets are and what their sound is like on this one. You guys ready? Let's go! Yeah. Well, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, listeners of the Chord Progression Podcast. Not only are we bringing you some of the great bands that are out there today that, of course, you probably already know as we, kick off everything in 2026, we have to bring you bands that you might not know and artists that you should be knowing because, hell, if we weren't going to be promoting these artists at the same time, that's one less person for you to actually get to recognize these artists and find out about them in the best way possible, which is getting to know them exactly who they are and everything about their music. So we're going to make sure we do that right here today. We've got an artist, I believe when I saw the press release, Sal said emo-tinged modern rock, and I'm like, oh, this seems rather interesting. So let's see what we got. We got a brand new single that came out right at the end of 2025 called Do You Think I'll Make It? And you know what? Enough with me trying to prop up this band and give you the perfect intro. Why don't you just enjoy this great conversation and find out all about this artist? So please welcome Vic from Telling Secrets to the podcast. So Vic, welcome to the Chord Progression Podcast.
Thanks for having me. How's it going?
It is going all right, man, in this day and age as we're already into 2026, going strong. How are you going right now?
It's pretty good. This year feels new, feels exciting. Kind of feels like a corner's been turned. So yeah, I'm making the most of it already and looking forward to what's to come. But yeah, feeling good.
Corner is going to be turned, making the most of it already. And we are recording this at the halfway point through the first month of the year. So we're only through 1/24 of the entire year. That's a lot to be positive about if you're already feeling the momentum.
Yeah, I think, it's nice to feel good about the year at the start of the year because, you get all the New Year's resolutions and sort of plans for the new year and everything. And it feels really good to hit the ground running, which I guess was sort of the idea with putting the song Do You Think I'll Make It out towards the end of last year, because then it sort of sets you up to, hit it the year after and just follow through and not sort of, I don't know, past few years, there's been some lag at the beginning of the year of when the year actually is going to start, But having said that, I did say that I was going to go to the gym every day in this month. And yesterday was the first day, so I'm lagging on that. I failed dry January 3 times already, but I'm working on that as well. So, on a professional sense, everything's great. On a New Year's resolutions, kind of level, we're working on it.
Oh, man. I mean, at least you're working on it. When it comes to dry January, I mean, for me, yeah, I never even tried. And I probably broke it on multiple occasions, but that's just how it goes. I don't really ever have a resolution myself. It's just I've kind of gotten to the point where I'm like, I'm just gonna keep doing this, and I don't really want to have that have to do at the beginning of the year to kind of wait for it. But when it comes to music, it's a little bit of a different story. Just what we normally see in the music industry, and I'm not sure if you've seen this, but I want to get your take on this too. Is it seems like once middle of December hits, or it's like that weekend before Christmas, it's like that's the last weekend for anything in music. I'm not saying necessarily like new music releases. I'm saying anything with music, specifically live shows, because new music releases are usually ended the weekend before that. And then there's like a 3-4 week break before something really happens with new music coming out and tours starting, which right now we're halfway through January. We're kind of starting to see that pick up just now. So do you see that ever happen? Like, especially in your time music, like there's that break between Christmas and New Year's where nothing really happens. And then with releasing, do you think I'll make it right before the end of the year and right before that time frame? Do you think releasing it then has helped set you up for success going into 2026?
Yeah, so I mean, I actually think that, that sort of rule of I think this December, it was the 19th of December was the last Friday before Christmas and stuff. So yeah, from that until, I mean, probably either this week or probably the start of this week is usually when you get that break in the year. I actually think that this year was the first year where, I was paying attention a little bit more to releases and upcoming things. And I think people sort of ate into that break a little bit. Like people were releasing songs. I hate, I can't think of an example like off the top of my head, but I feel like people were releasing songs a little bit closer to Christmas than usual. And also they were releasing songs a bit earlier than they normally do. And like, for example, for us, we had a gig on the 20th of December, which, we were pushing. And I mean, I know it's not a release, but it's still sort of, it's pretty close to Christmas and the turnout was good and everything. So I don't know. I kind of feel like people are actually still engaged enough and they are hungry enough for new things sort of all year round, except from, Christmas and Christmas Eve when sort of everyone's doing their own thing and stuff. But so I think it's slightly changed this year, and I think the idea with releasing, do you think I'll make it on in December? I think it came out on the 12th of December, so just before that, empty period or that pause period kicks in. The idea was that there's slightly less competition at that time, slightly less sort of saturation, less releases. Most people have either put out what they're going to put out in 2025 already, or they're getting ready to hit 2026 really hard. So, it was a partial experiment really to see if it what it did. I did releases in March, April, and October, and they all sort of, had their own part walk like success rate and whatever. But I don't know. I think this one was pretty cool. But I know I wasn't the only one that tried to do it. Like I say, I think this year felt a bit different. It felt like there was a little bit more music in and around that break period, which is cool. I like that.
I kind of tend to agree with you because I was thinking about when you released Do You Think I'll Make It? I think I had an interview with the guys in Volumes, and they were releasing their new record, their first one in 4 years, on that same date as well. And especially once, we get past Thanksgiving, get to the end of November, December ends up being a rather dry month for any kind of new music to come out anyway, even when we still have that extra time in front. And then going into 2026, that like middle of the month, that's when everything starts kicking up again. But even earlier on, I believe January 9th, Alter Bridge released their self-titled album. So now we're seeing that window shrink a little bit. And for the live shows, again, I think people are still hungry for live shows. People are still wanting to go to this. And I'm starting to see a little more and more of people going to shows for newer artists or younger artists that are playing some smaller rooms. And I think a lot of it might be, too, is the hunger for live music. and the overall cost, because the ticket prices for some of these smaller venues, for these smaller artists that you might not necessarily know as much as some of the bigger ones, the ticket prices are going to be less expensive. It's going to be a more intimate setting, and you're not going to have to break the bank just to try and go and see like an artist at an amphitheater, where you're going to want to be on the floor in the pit in front, and the ticket's $300-$400 just to get down there, where I could be on the floor in front of like someone like yourself in a live venue for maybe $20-$25, and I can stage dive if I want. And just the atmosphere ends up being something that people want to go to now, because they're craving the atmosphere and craving the actual experience once again, versus like the concert in full, or just the status of going to a bigger show or wanting to see a band live over and over again that they've already seen many times.
Yeah, I mean, a big thing with how much big shows and amphitheaters and stuff cost is like parking, obviously, like fees and all that stuff. And actually, like, if you pick your cherries carefully with what smaller shows you go to in clubs and stuff, you can get some pretty good quality shows for like $20. Like, bands are starting to bring their own lights now. Everybody, I was talking to a friend of mine about this, probably even like 3-4 years ago. It was to show up to a club with your own wireless in-ear monitors. You were like, big deal, or taking yourself really seriously. And now, like, every band has their own rack unit, every band has their own in-ear monitors, every band has their own amp sim setup. So it's just, I just feel like the baseline for the production value at smaller shows is sort of getting better. And I don't know, I think it's gonna get to the point where the bands are gonna almost outgrow in terms of production value. The bands are going to outgrow what the venue can offer. So like, you go to a room and like maybe their PA system isn't quite good enough to get the most out of the band. And I think that's actually like going to be an issue sometime in the near future, like almost like a bottleneck that will prevent smaller bands from being able to play at smaller venues and give the show that they want to give. With a lot of these gigs as well, like sometimes there's maybe too many bands on the same bill, and that prevents the band to have a full sound check, and you have to do line checks and stuff, and all these things like sort of take away from the gig. So if you stumble across a gig in a cool venue that's cheap, it's small, and there's a sense of community, and there's only 3, maybe maximum 4 bands on the bill, then I would strongly urge people to turn up and go to those things, because those are going to be really, really good gigs. And yeah, like you said, the intimate setting is like, it's like nothing else, really. It's like cool to be able to say you saw someone before they got big, and also on the rare occasion that someone big is doing a one-off intimate show, those things you can't miss, man. Like, I saw Bring Me the Horizon at the Whiskey 4 years ago, which 300 people or 350 people, I don't know what it is, but that was insane. Lady Gaga played yesterday at I think, was it the Wiltern, which is 2,000 people, but for Lady Gaga that's tiny. Mm-hmm. So and there's so many other bands playing those rooms that can make those rooms sound good. But yeah, I wouldn't go to one of those 2 venues. I don't want to say which one, but yeah, I think it's all about giving those gigs a shot, and yeah, people are still turning up around Christmas, around New Year. So I think it's a really sought after and like fun environment.
I do have to agree with you about especially those live show, like the smaller shows in the intimate setting. And because I remember this was 2024, Lorna Shore was on tour. They had Kubla Khan with them, and then in between, I can't remember if it was like Minneapolis and Chicago, Kubla Khan was going to do just a one-off in Milwaukee with Sanguisugabogg. They played at a venue that holds 250 people. The show sold out in like 2 minutes. I was lucky enough to be there, and it was insane just having the vibe of that heavy of a band, everyone being as invested into it as possible, and the show just being that good. And then even going back to that venue consistently, there's bands I always want to see there because in seeing them in that type of a setting, they put on a great show. Belmont is a great example of a band that's like that. Or at the end of the year, my buddy got really into Midwest emo, wanted me to go see Harrison Gordon with them, and that's really not my thing, but ended up going there. And during their set, I had a great time because the overall experience that was being created, the vibe that was in the room, it was honestly better than most of the shows I had been to up until that point that year. So I look back at some of those shows, I'm like, they were some of the best ones out there. And it wasn't based on because it was one of my favorite bands. It wasn't based on how many people were there. It was all based on the experience that was being brought together, not only by the people that were all going to be attending that show, but by the band that was on stage that was driving that factor. But I am concerned about what you said when it comes to with how technology is progressing in bands, having their own racks, everybody having their own in-ear monitors to give the best show possible. If they're going to essentially outgrow what the venues or what the house can offer, and it creating a bottleneck in terms of what can be done or how these shows can be capitalized on by these artists. Because as fans, we want to see the best show. As artists, you want to put on the best show. And I hope the venues don't limit that, because then not only are you robbing the entirety of the music world and the music community of a great experience and a great opportunity, but you could potentially be putting a roadblock in between the next big artist and getting to that point where so many more people recognize them and want to go see them play live because that show is just that worth it.
Yeah, I mean, we I had a situation which, there's a gig that's going to happen in the very near future. And at the last show that we did, we had our own sound guy, which was, really cool. It's like a really, really nice luxury because, usually you tend to rely on the venue sound person. But, we had our own, which is kind of like the fifth live band members. Like there's that meme, I don't know if you've seen it, it's on Instagram. It's like the fans go up to the band after their set and they go like, "Oh my god, you guys sounded great," and then the video hard cuts to the sound engineer and he's like, "Thanks," because if the singer's using pitch correction, or if there's loads of backing tracks, or if they're doing like snare bombs in the break, it's like this, it's kind of up to the sound guy to control that. And make sure that everything's sounding good and it's sounding how it's supposed to. But anyway, so we had a sound guy for the last gig. It was great. There's a gig coming up, and the venue doesn't allow any sort of external front of house engineers, which is, that's the venue's policy. And all right, it's just a shame because, the show could be better. Not only that, but because there's a certain number of bands on the bill, there's not enough time for everybody to get a sound check. So it's just, you kind of just, it's going to be a line check where you just plug everything in, make sure that there's sound coming out, some sort of sound coming out, and then you play the show. And that's the sort of, it's not necessarily a bottleneck in terms of technology. It's just more like a shame, really, because, you prepare for the show in a certain way, you prepare for a certain show that you want to put together, and then you sort of have to maybe come to terms with what's realistic in the given scenario, and you have to prepare for that as well. So it happens a lot. It's just something that is nice when it doesn't happen, but yeah, it definitely can limit the sort of show that you can put on, that you want to put on and what people expect. It feels really, the best feeling is when you do a show and it feels like how you imagined it feeling, and you're trying to get the idea across that you had in your mind, both in terms of sound, in terms of how it looks. And a lot of people need to come together to be able to do that. It's like the band is there to play their parts and come prepared. And if they have any supporting personnel, sound engineers or crew or anything. They're there to make sure that the technology on their end works, and then the rest of it is sort of up to the venue, the crowd, how well they, how well it was promoted, who's there, the vibe, so yeah, it's tricky. But it's really nice when you get it right, especially in a small venue, a good venue, because loads of people are going to remember that. I think it's so worth it, like planning a gig well and trying to make sure that the gig is good, and maybe taking some risks by maybe having less bands on a night, because that gives everybody the best opportunity to give the best possible performance, which is what it's about at the end of the day.
I mean, one of the biggest concerns with that would be when it comes to just what we're dealing with. Maybe if we don't have that many bands on the bill, then a lot of those bands aren't getting that opportunity. But at the same time, then it kind of creates a little bit of a incentive to better the live show, better the experience. I'm not saying, oh, go out and get the best equipment or go out and break the bank, because for a lot of younger artists, you just don't have the funds, or you don't have the ability to do something like that. But it's figure out, when it comes to what you can control in that live situation, how can you enhance it to be the best performance possible for the people that are there, because that's what's going to be remembered. And in the end, if you're not, we can all remember, artists when they put on great performances, when they sounded great and everything worked together. I know we just mentioned a couple of them too. I mentioned a couple of them as well. But what I didn't mention was the amount of times I've seen artists on shows that I had no idea who they were, or they were just completely brand new to me, and I don't remember their names at all, because the sound was just not there. The experience was just not there, and it wasn't something that would capture me to have me want to write down that name and remember it, so that by the time I got home or the next day when I was at work, I could go look that artist up and listen to their stuff and listen to what else they had. It's kind of like it's that first impression for a lot of people too. And I know a lot of artists know that, but I don't think they exactly realize when it comes to the importance of it, if they put themselves in the shoes of the other, as a fan, think about all the shows you guys have been to as artists, the shows that you've been to that you want to see a specific band. Think about the ones where a band that you didn't intend on seeing really blew you away. Why was that? Or a band that you didn't know, why don't you remember them? Just think about those instances, and you can really get an understanding of how that smaller setting can be used to your advantage, but what can be done in that for your specific sound, for your specific style, to create that experience and create a situation where people want to come and be a part of that every single time.
Yeah, I mean, experience is so important. I think there's three things to mention with this whole thing. Number one is, the experience is, that's how you figure out sort of what you're doing. You write the songs and you prepare them, you rehearse them, and then, the experience is going to be okay, how do you what are you doing in between the songs? You know what I mean? What are you wearing? How are you, are you actually a band, or are you just a group of guys playing music in front of people? And experience is something that you build up, or you've just got it. You have this natural knack, this instinct of what to do, what looks good, whatever. Now I think that if a band is good, either if a band is naturally good, or they've built up enough experience to be just good, no matter the given scenario, they're going to put on a good show. Even if there's no sound check, no line check, if when it's time to go, they will roll with it. And I think that if there's less bands on a bill, then in some scenarios it might be a good thing, because then it would give an opportunity for the bands that actually don't have experience and don't have the money to have the gear or the crew or these extra people to help them with their show and their sound. They can then take advantage of the venue's facilities and the venue's people by dialing in the sound, taking that time to do a sound check, make sure that everything's running smoothly. And I think that that's actually that actually shows respect to the crowd that's turning up as well, because you're not just trying to absolutely squeeze in content to a night with as many bands as possible who can potentially bring as many people as possible with different circles. You're improving the quality of the show, and I think bands ultimately will benefit from positive experiences where, you know, they felt like they weren't just sort of animals like, you know, brought into the venue, like no sound check, you know, you need a mic stand, oh, like sound guys annoyed at you or whatever, like, oh, you guys are using in-ear monitors, like being annoyed at them. You know, I think taking that time to make sure that everything's dialed in, everything's done properly, it's good for the bands, it's good for the people coming to see it because they'll have a better experience, and ultimately it's good for the venue as well.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's so many venues that build up a bad reputation because there's 7,000 bands on the bill. You know, there's the obviously the pre-sale or the pay-to-play model as well, unfortunately, which is you know, something that a lot of smaller local bands suffer from. And you know, that's where this whole thing kicks in. You know, you go through all that and then you don't get a sound check and you still, so it's just, you know, I think it would be really, really cool if people just really tried to focus in on just putting the best, highest quality show together possible, regardless of what the budget is, what the equipment is. And, you know, honestly, maybe smaller venues will stop closing down if that becomes the priority.
Oh, I think you're absolutely correct on that. And we all know that that would be a great thing for not only the bands and the fans, but I think what people don't really realize is how great of a thing, or even small venues realize how great of a thing that can be if they put that time and effort into something like that. Because I'm thinking about small venues that I know around where I'm at in Milwaukee. I think about small venues where I go 90 miles south when I go to Chicago. And I just think about the ones that I like to go to all the time and the ones I don't like to go to a lot. And what makes the ones that I like to go to a lot, it's when I go there, I know it's going to be a time where even like this, either the sound's going to be really good, or even if the sound is off for some reason, at least the crowd and the vibe and the band overall is going to be putting on a show where I want to be there. I want to be a part of it because there's some kind of draw all the time. I know some other venues, though, where it just seems like, okay, there might be an artist I want to see on it, but then you get to it and then nothing sounds right. It's just a hodgepodge mess of artists that are on there. The flow of the show doesn't work out very well. And then overall, you really don't feel a part of the show. You feel like you don't really want to be there. And you don't feel connected to the band, to the show, or to want to go to that venue overall. So if I think small venues kind of put that up there and they put more time into it now, I mean, I know you are doing it in a lot of small venues. I'm not going to bash you, but at the same time, think about how much of a high quality reputation for putting on great shows all the time can go.
Yeah, I mean, what you said that you know, the show doesn't flow. That's so important, man. Like, you know, that I think that comes into again, like planning the show, how many people are playing, the venue personnel. You know, it's like there's so many of these gigs, like there's like 10-minute changeovers.
Mm-hmm.
And like we said at the beginning, you know, back like maybe 3-4 years ago, that would be fine because everybody would be sharing a back line. But now everybody's got their own racks, everybody's bringing their own, like, you know, amp quad cortexes and that axe effects and stuff. Like, it's not feasible anymore really to do that. And yeah, it sucks, like, because the bands are stressing out, like they're like trying to make sure that sort of nothing is like going wrong technically, or they don't have to cut their set too short. And you know, then it's more difficult to connect with the crowd. You want to make that like the most important, the only thing that really actually matters, the only thing is, did the crowd have fun? It, because the rest doesn't. Like, you know, if you have a huge technical difficulty like midway through the gig, that can be a cool thing, because it's just like if you play the record on you know, at home on Spotify or Apple or YouTube, you know, you can hear the record perfectly every single time. But like, you know, let's say the backing track stopped working, or the mic or the power in the venue cuts out or whatever. That's like an experience, and it can be part of the show because, you know, while it's getting fixed, you can be like, oh, hey, can I borrow an acoustic guitar? And then you do an acoustic version to the crowd. Like, those moments are special. So when things go wrong, it can be really cool. But I think I think, yeah, just making sure that everything's like well planned out. And again, it's just that general respect, like to the band, to the audience, to the venue, to everybody that's there trying to do their jobs. Like, you want to set yourself up for success, not like a rushed, impossible schedule. So, yeah.
It seems like when everyone if everyone took the time to actually set themselves up, the bands, the fans, and the venue set themselves up for success by respecting the craft that everyone is dealing with. The bands respecting what the venue has to go through, but also the venue respecting what the bands are dealing with to make sure you're both putting on the absolute best show possible. Respecting that the fans are there to make sure that you're connecting with fans. And if something like that were to happen, problem mid-set, how can you turn that around and turn that into a positive experience that people are going to remember? I believe I could speak for everybody when, especially been to multiple concerts, throughout the years, hundreds of them. You've probably been to a show where something went wrong at some point in time during a set, and you remember it fondly because of how the interaction went with the band beyond that. I mean, I could come up with examples, but I feel like we'd be just doing straight story time for the next half hour if we did that.
This is true. I'll refrain from story time, but yeah, completely agree. Yeah.
Well, we'll refrain from story time on that because we've been talking a lot about just what's going on with live shows, talking about what the younger bands are experiencing and what smaller venues can do and what artists can do to make sure that we elevate those live shows, especially in smaller venues, to be the absolute best possible and have the best outcome for all three major players involved: the artists, the fans, and the venues. But buddy, Vic, this is a podcast about telling secrets. This is a podcast about you guys. So we got to get to know more about your music. And I mean, I'll start out by going with this. Let's give people like a summary of who Telling Secrets is. Give a summary of what you've been through, just that backstory, so people at least can go to this point of the podcast and be like, who is Telling Secrets? This is my full introduction to them. Go for it.
The Telling Secrets is a modern rock band that I founded in Manchester in England. And I had a little burst of inspiration from my friend Matt, who sings in a band called Rain City Drive, because the way that the project started is I'm a guitarist by trade. That was the first sort of thing that I picked up instrument wise. And I started writing and recording songs, but I couldn't find any band members. Everyone around me was, into different genres of music, jazz, neo soul, things like that. Nobody was interested in rock. So I ended up taking vocal lessons from Matt, and the premise of the interaction was, hey, like I have these song ideas and I'm trying to sing them, but I would like you to tell me if I maybe like have a shot at trying to do this as a vocalist as well, or if I should give up and just carry on trying to find someone. So, fast forward a few years, I was writing the songs, and in the meantime, I was getting my production chops down. And really, it's all about, it's modern rock. It dives into so many different subgenres, categories, but ultimately it's just modern rock. We've been playing a lot of gigs in Los Angeles. We played in London, Manchester. So we've been all over the place. And yeah, so that's basically it. It's like a nomadic rock story that's just continuing on and on and on.
A nomadic rock story that's just going to go wherever it goes because that's the way that the wind blows and where it's taking it. So that makes a lot of sense when it comes to having that modern rock base, but seeing wherever it can go. And working with Matt McAndrew, I've had him on the podcast before one time. This had to be, I want to say, towards the end of 2021. And I still laugh when I think about that episode because I remember editing the audio and looking at the the tracks, there was so little time that I actually spoke up about anything because he was just going on so much great stuff and I just couldn't stop him. Like it felt wrong to stop the guy. So I'm hoping you had that type of experience where you got so much out of it. But clearly, I would say you did, if not only you brought him up, but at the same time, this is where you are with Telling Secrets right now. founding the band, coming up with these ideas for songs, figuring out that you can sing these the way that you want to sing them, they deliver them the best way possible, and not only playing shows in Los Angeles, but being able to go over and play shows back in the UK, in Manchester, and in London as well. So it seems like that nomadic kind of journey that you're on, and still somewhat on, is the journey that Telling Secrets was always supposed to be on, to explore the musical world that is possible with your imagination.
Yeah, I mean, the nomadic thing, sort of the roots of that go deeper into just like, my like I'm Hungarian. My whole family's I was born there, grew up in the UK, in England, and then within that, moved from London to Manchester. I've done like a lot of living in different places and stuff. And I like that. I like that, looking at things like, doors are open and you just kind of go with what you feel, and you're on a journey. And I don't know, I think that's a nice sort of like metaphoric viewpoint for life as well. But yeah, I mean, I am really, really happy that, the whole relationship with Matt started off as, like, teacher student, and then, it evolved into a really good friendship. He's a really wise guy that, you can always turn to for good, honest advice, and I appreciate that. And yeah, it's just part of, he's a big part of my story, because he's like a mentor as
Mm-hmm.
well, so and those people are really, really, really important in life for others.
Oh, they're insanely important in life for others. There's people in my life when it came to what I do as a full-time job, where I'm at now, how I got there from where I was. It was, had two people that kind of took notice and just were pushing me out of my comfort zone to try different things. And before you knew it, I was moving to where I was supposed to move to all along. And even when I left, they were both absolutely cheering for me as I moved on, because it was like, this is what you're supposed to be doing. This is what you should be doing. Like, go, go, go.
Yeah.
It was awesome. And it's great to have people in your life that you're able to discover, and like, hey, they take, essentially what I always say about it is, they take investment in you. And so it's like they're investing in your success, and they're doing it out of the want to see you succeed. It's like, we're not putting that investment in just because, oh, we're going to get some kind of crazy return off of it, of they're going to give us less money. No, no, no. It's because we want to see these people succeed. We believe in what they're doing. We believe in the goodness that they're putting out in the world, and we want to be able to invest in them so that they can do that and it can reach the most amount of people possible. So with someone like Matt, it seems like he's doing the exact same thing, always, being there to give you the wise advice that you need, never pulling really any punches if you're bringing anything up about the music you're creating, how you're recording it, how you're singing, so that you can put out the best thing possible that you're trying to. And then this whole nomadic journey of music becomes a thing that becomes a full-on experience throughout life that's not going to get cut short due to whatever forces of nature are going to come your way, because life's going to knock us down. But if we got those people that are helping us or invest in us, and we've got that investment in ourselves as well, we're going to pick ourselves back up and keep going.
Yeah, I mean, they say that that you only really need to find, like, other than yourself, like one person that,
Mm-hmm.
really believes in what it is you're doing. And I think it's true, because regardless of what happens, at least that, okay, this person, like, is supportive, and, but regardless of what level that belief is. But I think it's important. I think those people are out there. I think it's important to, like, be self-aware and manage your expectations, and know where you are, where you want to be, and like the distance between the two. Um, but yeah, it's funny. Like, I don't know. It's just I kind of sometimes feel like I don't want to bring him up, because he's obviously like really, really super successful and everything, but he is just like just such a, a big part in sort of this sort of chapter for me, that I can't not. So, he's honestly, he's great. I know loads of like his other like previous students and stuff, and yeah, it's just like, it's just nice to have like sincere, supportive people in the industry like him, who, you know, like, it inspires me to be that way as well. So that's really, really nice.
And that's the type of inspiration that can, of course, trickle down to a whole new generation of artists, a whole new generation of musicians. And hopefully it just continues to grow to the point where we're actually seeing artists that are solely like really investing in other artists as well, trying to help them out, trying to help them get to that success, and not seeing it in, like, as I've heard on this podcast called, local band syndrome, where it's, you're hot in your local market and you're going to put people down because you don't want people to, grow above you, or you're going to try and keep like your status as that top band. But by doing that, you're never going to grow out of that space. So
Yeah.
it's the same also concept of a rising tide raises all ships. That's been said on this podcast. Probably out of the almost 700 episodes we've done, I want to say at least 80 or 90 of them, that phrase has come up. So it makes sense to be able to bring up Matt too as part of your story, and as part of, the story of telling secrets, because he is a part of it. He is someone that's investing in the success and making sure that you guys not only have the best possible chance to succeed, but also that you have the best possible chance to put out the best experience possible for what you want to do with music, for what you want to do with a live show. And when it comes to writing music as well, being able to write it in a way that is absolutely going to be connective to you as artists, but also find a way to connect to us as well. And that's something I see a lot of artists, especially the younger ones, struggle with.
Yeah, I mean, with the whole like connection thing, it's weird. I think it's not something that I've actually really thought about in every single song, and to be honest with you, I think it shows. I think that Do You Think I'll Make It is a song which is one that people can connect with, because it's doing well, and I can see that, you can tell by the reception on online and what people say and whatever, and you can kind of feel whether it's genuine. But yeah, I don't know. I think it's almost like a hidden kind of element of writing the song, which is telling of whether the song's like sincere and real, and like, people say authentic, things like that. I think it's a little bit more difficult to engineer that connective, that accessibility to the song, like the emotional accessibility. But yeah, I think you're right. It's difficult. It's something that doesn't always happen with new stuff, but I don't know. I mean, there's still some like new artists who are writing their own music, and they're really, you can tell that, it's like really it has that draw, that grip of people sort of feeling like, these lyrics like touch me, or I feel understood, or this is my song, or whatever, which is awesome.
And you're gonna get the biggest artists that are gonna be able to do that, and you're gonna be able to find younger artists that are able to do that as well. But it seems like that's the thing that always will propel younger artists to being, going from the local to the regional to the national to the international level, is writing music that, of course, you want to write, that is personal for you, that is going to be something that you believe in. But then you're able to find a way to take that and be able to connect it very, I'm not going to say easily, but very strongly to a larger audience. I mean, we've seen it with bands that I would say don't take themselves too seriously, but the energy that they put around that song and the way it connects with people is in a different way. Electric Callboy is a great example of that.
I was thinking that just now.
You don't listen to them because it's deep and emotional. You connect with it because it's going to just make you feel a certain, like, deep way. You listen to it and you connect it because it makes you feel happy, it makes you smile, it makes you enjoy it, and it makes you feel, honestly, like this sense of just goofy energy that in a world, especially when they first were really popping off, like with Hypa, and then we got the moves coming out of the pandemic, it was something that was lost. And now they've carved out that niche for themselves where they release something and it's not going to be super duper deep, but that you're going to have a fun time with it.
Yeah, I think, and I was literally thinking as you started talking, I was like, oh yeah, like I guess a lot of the songs in the alternative world are that, like, sad or like
Mm.
negative focused. Like, it's
Mhm.
like it's almost like I guess it's, I don't know what you call it, but when like you bond over trauma or whatever,
Yeah.
like that's the sort of main underlying thing. But yeah, like someone like Electric Callboy is like, or even, I mean, I guess, yeah, Electric Callboy is just like happy, it's like, and it's like other stuff, like, Earth, Wind and Fire.
Yeah.
Their songs are all like, you put it on to have a good time, to like feel, and you can still connect with that because or like, that is it Pharrell Williams, the Happy song.
Yeah.
It's just about being happy, and honestly, I mean, for me personally, I think because a lot of the experiences that I'm drawing on are unfortunately negative, it's more difficult to write a
Mhm.
song like that you can connect with, that's positive, that doesn't come across cheesy. Now, I do want to say that, we were talking about like smaller bands and new
Mhm.
bands and uh being able to connect with the song. There's an artist called Alice Erin who I'm producing. She had a song comes out tomorrow called As the Curtain Falls, and she's already got another song out called The Art of Letting Go. And she is another one of Matt's ex-students, vocals. I think that they either did vocals or songwriting. I can't remember. I think it may have been songwriting. But anyway, her lyrics are unbelievable. It's like the sort of like genuine, pure connection that you can feel with the music, especially when you couple it with like the subject matter and what she's saying. I think it's really special. I think it's great, and I think she's one of those ones who is able to create that genuine bond between the record and the listener. So that's one to watch out for. It's more alternative rock, but she's got it. She's got that. She's got that for sure.
That's always a great plug too. Is just you can see younger artists that are connecting on that in that way, and even for yourself as well. Like you said, a lot of the experiences that you're pulling from, and a lot of the emotions you're pulling from, might be more of that melancholic, deeper kind of what you even brought up. How a lot of alternative music is kind of doing that trauma bonding type thing in order to connect. It works when the music is genuine and that's genuinely where you're pulling experience from, because you went through those, those emotions, how it was felt, you understand that. And so of course you're going to pull from that experience. But a lot of it is, again, is this genuinely what you feel? Is this genuinely how you're going to, present this stuff? And when we listen to it, can we connect with that overall emotion? Can we connect with that story? Can we connect with that specific feeling? And again, that's where songwriting is for a lot of, especially those younger artists, is rather difficult, because it is not an easy thing to do. It is nothing that comes simply, because if it came simply, shoot, then every band would be as big as Bring Me the Horizon. But that's not the case. Not everyone can do that, and it takes a lot of either just initial talent to be able to do something like that, but it also takes a fuck ton of hard work to understand how this is done, when it comes to how other artists have done it, how they've done it. But then your sound is your own sound. Your feelings are your own feelings. How are you going to present that in your own way to make sure that's authentic? You can have all the tools, you can have all the explanation, you can have all the examples, but you can't be a copy of it. Because I'm not saying you can't be a copy of, like, oh, well, they made a song that has the exact same kind of subject matter. Well, people go through similar experiences, but you can't copy a person's authenticity or a band's
Yeah,
authenticity.
yeah. I mean, and like, do you want to like tell the same story again? I suppose you kind of have to, but you need to think about a different way of doing it.
Mm-hmm.
There's I went to a master. I think Peter Walkerman. I think he's called Waterman. Please, I hope that's correct. He's a huge producer from back in the day, and he said that there's only a few types of songs. There's love songs, um, there's like breakup songs, and then there was one more. But there's only so many stories you can actually sort of tell with words. And I think like it's a really valuable and important skill to be able to tell a cohesive story throughout, two verses and a chorus and a bridge or whatever, and also not be so on the nose
Mm-hmm.
with, like using the same stuff, like I'm out of my mind, like it's pulling me down, like all this stuff that you hear all the time. I saw a really, really cool. Dude, it was this random Australian guy on Reels, Instagram Reels. I probably saw it like a year ago, maybe just over, when I had the idea for "Do you think I'll make it?" And it was just this guy saying that, like, hey, like, if you have things that you're worried about, you're anxious about that haven't happened yet, like, don't torture yourself by thinking about it all the time, because you don't know what's going to happen. And if you keep thinking about it and it doesn't end up happening, then you've essentially lived through it without living through it. And if it does end up happening and you've been thinking about it, then you've lived through it twice. You've put yourself through that twice. So that's like, what that idea is that, it is about anxiety. It is about being worried. And there's so many sort of songs that spell it out for you, like the anxiety is killing me and like I feel anxious and whatever. But I think it's just about finding that twist and being able to give the same idea, because nothing's original, just give the same idea in a new way that is interesting or different and still good.
I think that's well said. And that actually is something that reel from that Australian guy, it makes a lot of sense too, because and from another perspective, if you're always worried about it and you live through it without actually living through it, or if it happens and you live through it essentially twice, what did you miss out on living through it the first time, when it either wasn't going to happen in the end, or when it did happen, you lived through it twice? What was the opportunity cost that you passed up on, or the opportunity cost of what it was? Like, maybe it would have been something that's even greater. Maybe it's you take that energy and put it somewhere else.
Yeah. Yeah, I think there's, like, obviously you should be prepared for what's to come and manage expectations and all those things. But it's just drawing that line, knowing where the limit is. When do I need to sort of, get a grip and just take a breath and, just sort of see where the nomadic journey takes you.
See where the nomadic journey takes you. Absolutely. Well, Vic, I got two more questions before we wrap this up. The first one is, yep, we're already halfway through January in 2026, but that means there's 23 out of 24 left of the year. There's 23, 24 left of the year. What is on tap for Telling Secrets in 2026?
So I want to collect the rest of the songs that I have in mind that I've been working on. I've got a new one now that I'm excited about, which I think it's going to be pretty. I feel like it's an angle that isn't really being explored. It's nothing too, like, weird or experimental. It funnily enough makes sense, but I think that's going to be really good, which I'm excited for. And then I have loads of fragments of just, like, ideas that I never had time, or other songs came in and they took priority. Fragments that I would like to work through. There's going to be a lot more gigs. There will be more releases throughout the year, that's for sure. And there's just, I think the profile's just going to get raised. I think the projects are going to get bigger. I will say one thing that I'm not going to be doing. I'm not going to be editing any more music videos, because last year I edited all of them, and I'll tell you what, it took a piece of me. I left a piece of me in 2025. It was so time consuming and stressful. So I'm gonna liberate myself from that responsibility. But there's going to be loads of music. There's going to be loads of TikTok videos. There's going to be way more performances. We already got merch for the first time, which people will be loving. So it's just going to be a better live show, better records, more shows. So yeah.
And no music video editing.
No music video. I'll leave that up to someone else.
Oh, I totally get it. It is a time-consuming thing, but that's an exciting thing for 2026. More shows, more new music, more focusing on some of those fragments that you've been working on, just seeing what can come from this nomadic journey of you that is Telling Secrets. But Vic, we're going to end this with one last question before we wrap this up. You kind of already alluded to this in a little bit of a way from our previous part of the conversation, when you're talking about the artists that you were producing, when we were with the way the lyrics were connecting, but it perfectly funnels into this. This podcast has all been about, getting people to discover new music, new artists in brand new ways. And we got to also foster that as well. And not only do I want to get to know more new music, but I want you to support the music you love as well. But I'm limited to 3 because otherwise we're going to be here all night. And I feel like we might need to get some food and some sleep at some point. So, Vic, can you name me 3 bands or artists that you love that you would love to see more people get into right now?
So artists that are not that popular. Well, I'll touch on Alice again. Alice Erin. It's just Alice and then Eren. She's got 2 songs out at the moment. It's alternative rock. It's emotional. It's impactful. It's pretty. It's poetic. That's great. You've definitely put me on the spot here. I'll tell you that.
It happens to everybody, man. It happens to everybody.
I'm trying to think who would be. There's another band who I've been involved with pretty heavily called Rain Division. I'm producing their new songs and I've been playing guitar for them as well. They're more like heavy pop, but they're still really cool. There's a couple of songs with breakdowns, and there's way more music coming from them as well. And then if I can be so bold as to give a really diplomatic answer, Matt's project with Thrasher is called The Takeaway, and they've got some really, really great like alternative songs that they've just started like rolling out. And again, like super high quality production, really, really good songwriting. And yeah, I think those 3 will definitely grow a lot this year. So yeah, and it's all like really good people making the music. So yeah, I am excited for those. And sorry, I apologize. Sorry, I know I'm involved with 2 of them. If I have to think of another one, there's another band called Take the Name that I really like. I have nothing to do with that band. I think the guy from Ice Nine Kills produces them. I might be wrong, but they have some really, really good bangers like Octane Core, just like really good, solid songs. So yeah, they're all really great.
Well, I wasn't going to say anything about it because, well, I really don't mind. There's been a lot of artists that they plug stuff that, oh, I'm involved in this, or I've got this other band that I know that I'm working with. That's the kind of stuff that I want to hear because then you're helping out artists that you're already working with. Let's get more people to know them. It doesn't always have to be someone random, but then you also broke the rules too and gave me 4 instead of 3, but it's a podcast. This ain't network TV. This ain't, something super rigid. People break the rules all the time here.
It is what it is. I apologize. Sue me.
Nah, I'm not going to sue you, but I am going to wrap up this episode now. So, Vic, thank you for taking the time today. I really appreciate it. We're going to end this with 3 things. So, first things first, telling secrets. Yes, this is Vic right here, and you've been listening to him talk about not only great things in the music industry, but also the connective way of music, especially within telling secrets as well. Plus, there's going to be more new music coming out in 2026. You already spoke about more shows as well, so you're going to want to be on that and get ready for it and get into the band right now. Description of the podcast. Go and see all the links and labels for social media where you can listen to the music, where you can check out some of that merch that they got, and where you can see them play live as well. It's all going to be down there. Go click. Have a great time with it. But make sure you go and do that. I'm doing all the work to find this stuff for you guys, so don't let me down. Now it's time for number 2. Vic, whenever guests on the podcast, I join the podcast, I tend to make a certain promise as a way to say, thank you. I appreciate you taking the time. I wish you continue to support the band in the future. And this is how I do it, and it kind of references something we spoke about earlier before we hit the record button. But when I get to see you perform live for the first time, I will come and find you. I will come and say hello to you. But the real promise is, first round's on me. Just make sure if I show up at the bus that you're actually there and not have another band on there instead.
Well, you might make some friends by accident, but I'll be there. Thank you. I really do appreciate you taking the time. And yeah, I look forward to it. I look forward to meeting you. I look forward to the round, the drink, whatever it may entail. And yeah, I really do appreciate you taking the time. And it's fun.
You're very welcome. Great taking time with you as well. Now we're going to end this with number 3. I cannot end this podcast by saying goodbye. That is way, way, way too final because 1, I made you a promise. I got to keep that promise. But 2, man, this is a great time, a great conversation. Let's make sure this isn't your only time on the Chord Progression Podcast. Let's bring you back some point in the future, all right?
I'm down. Thank you. That would be
Alrighty.
great.
So Vic, this can't be goodbye. This is going to be, I'll see you later.
See you soon.
Woo! Well, folks, my interview with Vic from the band Telling Secrets. Now time for Kevin's final thought. I know we spent a lot of time on that whole entire thing with small artists, smaller venues, local venues, and fans, and just what we're seeing right now and what's going on with the experience and how can we make it an experience that is going to be great for the bands, great for the fans, and great for those small venues, and how it's going to elevate every single aspect. And that is something I think that we should be doing a lot more of and a lot more support of in terms of what we're focusing in on. Since the pandemic, since the return of music and over the course of the 2020s, how many of those local venues that you love have you seen shut down? How many of those smaller venues that you love to go see have shut down? How many are no longer there and are no longer serving up great music for the community? There's a lot of them that no longer are there. I'm thinking of Milwaukee as well, and we've seen some shut down. We've seen a good amount survive, but we're seeing less and less opportunities because there's less and less venues. And then we got to figure out how are we going to also, as fans, deal with, larger bands that are growing and having these massive concerts we all want to go see, but rising ticket prices, and how can we get the best value for our hard-earned money? Local venues might be the way to go. And if a local artist or smaller artists are able to put on the best production possible with the respect to the artist, with the respect to the venue, and the venue's going to respect it by helping them put on the best production possible, giving them the time to really thrive and show up and create the best overall experience for that one single night for the fans, and the fans show up and bring the energy, fund the show in a way with their ticket prices. You're going to see this consistently rotating thing of everyone's getting a positive benefit, whether it's the artist, the venue, or the fans, and everyone wants to come back for more. Why wouldn't you want to be a part of that? I want to thank Vic for coming on the podcast. When it comes to Telling Secrets, go to the podcast below. Links for everything for you can find them online, where you can check out their music, where you can go get some merch and see and play live in 2026. Please also follow along with us on Chord Progression Podcast or on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Links description of the podcast below. Hit the subscribe button right down here. If you're on YouTube, to help subscribe to the channel, hit the follow or subscribe button on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Hit the like button. It's to help push these episodes in the algorithm. And hit the follow button, or not the follow button. Hit the comments. Tell us what you thought about that whole entire thought with, what's going on with the local venues. Do you think that's a great idea? Do you think it's a bad idea? Where do you see the positives and negatives happening? We got to hear. We want to know. Let's see what you guys got. Thank you, everybody. And that's going to be for me. Thank you for listening to the Chord Progression Podcast. My name is Kevin, and you guys know how I end every single one. That's a big, healthy, and hearty. See ya! Yeah!